Today we're moving on to Ephesians chapter 3, and actually I'm going to do the same section twice because I want to draw out two different points from this section from verse 1 through to verse 13. And the first aspects I want to pull out today is the ministry and the role of Paul. And just who he was and his mission. And the first thing we read about Paul here is that he was a prisoner, and he would have been writing this letter from Rome in prison. And it's important to understand why he is in prison. He's in prison on behalf of you, the Gentiles. So he's writing it, he's saying, I'm in prison because of my ministry to the Gentiles. And what we see consistently is Paul sees himself as a servant of those that he's been called to. He's a prisoner here. In verse 7, he is a minister, which if you were to look in like the NIV version, it would say the word servant. He sees himself as a servant. And at the very end of the chapter, here at the end of this section, he says, don't lose heart over what I'm suffering for you. He is very much seeing his life and his ministry as being about the work of God for others. And I think it's really important when we see this, because you sometimes when you're reading the New Testament, you get little insights or windows into the people that are writing the letters. And here we're seeing Paul talking about himself. And he sees himself very much as a servant, as someone that's laying his life down for others. And that's my first question to us, really, is who are we serving? Each of us has been called to serve somebody or some group of people. And I think it's important that we know that. It may be that the people you've been called to serve are your family, or if you are a teacher, it might be your children, or if you are in the workplace, it might be your colleagues or your customers. But the Lord has called us to serve. And Paul sees that and takes that responsibility incredibly seriously. So we see that Paul is a servant, but we also see that Paul didn't just know who he was trying to reach. He also understood what he was trying to bring to them. And he had been given the revelation of a mystery. And we're going to talk tomorrow about what that mystery is, because it's to make this video too long otherwise. But he talks a lot about the mystery. His job is to reveal this mystery. Now, this mystery first came to him by revelation from God. God revealed it to him. And then what he says is, when you read this, you can perceive my insight into this mystery. I want to make known to you what this mystery is. And it was not made, because it was not made known up until this point. Previously, in previous generations, in other generations, it hadn't been revealed. But now it has been revealed, not just to Paul, but to the other apostles and prophets as well. And so Paul realizes that he's not just been given a people to serve, he's been given a purpose to serve them with. His job is to make known this amazing revelation of the church. And God has made him a servant or a minister to that end. And he has this ministry which has been given to him, and then he realizes that his responsibility is to preach it, to declare it, to make it known to the Gentiles, which is who he's trying to reach, and to bring the light to everyone about the plan for the mystery hidden for ages in God. And so I want to ask you another question now, which is really, what is it God has called you to bring? What should you bring? And this is sometimes a difficult question. You know, she said, well, this is who I'm serving, but what am I bringing? Well, first of all, if we want to know what we've got to bring, we have to find it from God. It has to come by revelation from God. You know, we have to say, Lord, what is it you want me to bring to people? And then you have to ask, how do I bring it to people? Now, for Paul, that was about preaching. But for others, it might be bringing it in a different way. If you're a teacher in a classroom, you're not going to bring it by preaching. You're going to bring it in a different way. But Paul's approach was, God has revealed something to me. All right, and it's maybe something that's not been obvious to other people, but I am going to preach it, and I am going to bring it to light for everyone in this group. So that's my next. That was my next point. Really, is that Paul was someone that knew who he was serving, and he had a clear revelation of a mystery to bring. But the third thing I want to highlight is really Paul's humility. So although Paul had been really clearly called to serve a group of people, he knew this mystery that had been hidden for ages, that was his responsibility to bring. But what we see is just this wonderful humility. I think if you were to say what is it that makes Paul special, it's his humility. Because he says, even though I've got all this great revelation, he says, it is by the grace of God, according to the gift of God's grace. He says, right, though I am the least of all the saints, his grace was given. Right, his grace was given to me. And I want to challenge us as we explore these ideas. Well, who am I called to serve? What am I called to bring? Are we living it out in humility? Are we sharing what God has given us in humility, in that sense of, Lord, this is a work of your grace. I might be not worthy of this, but God has called me to do it. It's a gift of grace. And so I just want to encourage you to think through these things. Ask this question, Lord, who am I serving? What should I bring? And how can I operate in humility?